Boom, bang, pow. Hello, Internet. We are live with another episode for all of y'all to come chill with us. Kind of a fun topic for the day. You know, we figured we'd take a little bit look at what the Avs have done lately in the NHL draft. We'll get into it in just a second here as we get everything all set up to get going.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Awkward silence.
Y'all are ready. I see everyone piling into the video. We're good to start here. So today's episode is brought to you.
On.
Yeah, exactly. They're jumping in hard. Today's episode is brought to you by the one, the only Strava Craft Coffee, the rich CBD infused coffee, which you can now purchase in K-Cups for your Keurig or get their whole bean or ground options as well. You can also get 20% off when you use code DNVR20 at checkout. And supporting our partners is supporting us. So give them a try today. The CBD is non-psychoactive and it's been known to help things like long-term migraines, other aches and pains, even anxiety. You name it. If you're having troubles, this thing can probably help you out. At least give it a try. See if it works for you with that DNVR20 code for 20% off. Welcome in to the DNVR Avalanche Podcast presented by Davidson's Beer, Wine, and Spirits, my go-to Breckenridge Brewery shopping location, one in Centennial, one in Highlands Ranch. I am Rudolph. Joining me, as always, is the man, AJ Haefele. And on today's show, we're going to bust out a bit of a ranking list on this one and take a look at the past decade of Colorado Avalanche draft picks, that being from 2009 to 2019. We're only going to be looking at the first round because we don't want to be here all day sifting through 80 picks.
Well, and, there's only so much that you can get into the pit of misery.
Right. When the Avs haven't developed a second rounder in a decade, it's hard to rank 0 games played versus 0 games played.
Second round picks from 2000. It's Ryan O'Reilly. Nobody else.
Yeah, pretty much. So, he will be on this list, Cygnus. Don't you worry. That name will come up, and probably pretty quickly, I think.
Depending on which direction we go.
Do you think we should start at the top? Should we just?
No.
Yeah, right. You can't just bust the hype right away. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. So
that's right.
We're gonna start at the bottom, and
you got to start at the bottom. And now we're here.
Yeah, but we ain't there yet. So hold your horses.
I'm just in a hurry. Okay.
All right. So I think the biggest first round bust of the last decade is, unfortunately, a pretty easy one.
We should probably agree on this one.
Yeah.
It's the only one that didn't ever get into the NHL. The Avs, it's one of the very few first-round picks that hasn't even gotten an ELC.
Correct.
And went back into the draft.
Only to get drafted by the Blues. But
yeah, and that was Connor Blakely.
Yep.
And the Avs didn't even get to use the compensation pick that they would have received from it because they traded it at the deadline.
They sure did.
For Mikhail Bodker.
Value.
Of course, after what we just said about second-round picks, it's like, who cares, right?
Right. Kind of actually.
It's not like baseball where you get, your first-round pick doesn't sign, you get the same pick, but one slot later the next year. So they wouldn't have gotten. It's not like they would have been able to get that pick. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Easy one there. 0 NHL games. There were 11 total first-round draft picks in the last decade for the Avs. So Blakely pretty cleanly comes in at 11th.
Yeah.
Everything from here on out, except for maybe the number 1 spot, and even that, arguably, depending on how much you want to project, is up for grabs. So at number 10, AJ, I think there's 2 options that you can really put at 9 and 10. It's just a matter of what order you put them in.
I have Siemens at 10.
And I have Siemens at 9, for the record.
I guess there's 12, actually.
Are there 12? Am I so bad at counting? Yeah, there's definitely 12.
Yeah, because they had 2 years with 2 picks.
Yep, that's right. Well, they had a year without a pick, though.
Also true.
Did we do 11 years because I'm dumb? Possibly.
Well, it's actually 11, but yeah, it's a decade. So
Well, yeah. So yeah. 12 picks. I can't count. Simple math. Either way, Duncan Siemens and Joey Hishon are who I have at 9 and 10.
Yeah. I have Siemens. So the reason that I have Siemens lower at 10 and 11 yeah, it is 12. I'm recounting this, and that's 12.
It's definitely 12. 11 and 10 here.
Yeah. So I have Siemens lower just because he didn't have any real roadblocks in his career. The big reason that Siemens didn't make it was because Siemens wasn't good enough. That was just it.
True.
You know, he had good feet, but and he had the physicality that you like. He had great size, good reach. He just didn't play the game at NHL speed. If he did, he would have been so good, man.
Yeah,
I
agree. If he had any amount of hands and vision at the NHL level.
Mm-hmm. But and even if just defensively, if he could have read the game at NHL speed and been able to play it, you could have gotten away with the grenades that he lobbed at teammates' feet constantly, because he would at least been playing fast enough. But he didn't do it, and it sucks because he was such a great kid. But I have Joey Hishon ahead of him because Joey Hishon even overcame, awful concussion issues to even get into the NHL. He scored one really, really nice NHL goal against Nashville with that low wrister that went posting in, and was a great story, and was, just worked so hard, and he gave so much of himself, and he was just never the same after the concussion. And so I have him ahead of Siemens because something out of his control was really the thing that we'll always say what if about.
Yeah, there is zero argument to me about the skill level. Hishon's skill level was absolutely higher than Duncan Siemens if we're ranking it on that. So the reason I have Siemens higher is he had slightly more longevity in a North American career. He played across multiple seasons, played a handful more games in the NHL. Hishon, he played NHL games for one season. And yes, unfortunately, the reason he missed a lot of time and was never the player he could have been is out of his hands. But ultimately, he ended up going to the KHL and struggling there to finish his career.
When Siemens was done, that was it, though.
Yeah, when he finished up, he finished up. But they essentially both had the same length of pro career, and Siemens kept up in North America. Not that Hishon couldn't have, I suppose, based on his numbers, but he tried something that didn't work out for him at all in going to Europe.
Yeah. I'm just, for me, I just think that it's...
Yeah, definitely a fair argument. I'm not going to pick nits about 11th and 10th on the list, certainly.
Yeah. Which guy, who got NHL games and had, they were both good AHL players, too.
Yeah.
And that was the big difference. That was, Connor Bleakley got drafted again by St. Louis, got an ELC, and went to the AHL and wasn't any good.
And then they just threw him in the ECHL, basically.
Yeah. They were like, oh boy, yikes.
So,
and Hishon and Siemens, Hishon was a 40-point guy. Siemens was a top pairing defenseman for years. They were both good AHL players, and they just weren't quite good enough to get to that next level. Obviously, busts. Not what you want with first round picks. Hishon's got asterisks next to his bust label, but a bust nonetheless. And it sucks to dunk on a guy like that because it doesn't feel good.
Okay, let's do one more, the number 9 spot. And I'm not sure where you're going to go with this, but there's a good chance that we're lobbing a grenade with this pick.
I have Kaut.
Okay. We'll lob a grenade at the start of period 2 then.
Yeah. So I have Kaut for right now.
And that's 100% fair given that, first of all, he's only played 9 NHL games.
Right.
Secondly, look at what he was as a pick, right? A relatively safe pick for the Avalanche, drafted with a relatively low ceiling, and surefire NHLer, sure, but what are you fully going to get out of this guy?
Right. And with Kaut, it's just like who he is. Think he's going to be good. Think he's going to fit in nicely. I think he's got a long NHL career ahead of him, but I'm still doubtful on the ultimate upside there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have him at the lowest of these guys that are all still young and like potential based. If he had 50 games played, he'd be up there. He'd be ahead of the 2 draftees
assuming
from
he had
2019.
Good stats to back it up.
Well, yeah, like even if he had 50 games played and it was like 15 points, it's like, okay, well, you got to move him up ahead of just the lotto ticket kids, you know?
Yeah.
But right now, just with the 9 games played, as good as he looked, you know, Greg Malden had 9 really good games for the Avs once upon a time too.
Almost anyone can be hot for 9 games, especially when the league has no idea how to defend a guy.
Well, and it was really like 7 games he played. And then he had those last
2
couple
weaker ones,
that he snuck in at the end because they were like, "Oh, we got hurt again. We need you to come back." And it was, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So I had Kaut ranked 1 spot higher, but nonetheless, the list is still a bit odd, right? Because there are Kaut with 9 games in the NHL and 2 other players that have 0 NHL games so far.
Yeah.
So there are some qualifications there of how you have to put the list together and say, look, if we're ranking them right now today, obviously these guys aren't going to be as high, but as soon as next season, they could be in the top 5.
Yep.
So that's just a reality of ranking it in the immediate. So take that with a grain of salt, a grain of understanding, something like that one way or another. Either way, Breckenridge Brewery is the official beer of DNVR. And you know what? I really hope that we can have some sort of a draft watch party down at the bar. Certainly AJ and I will be putting on some sort of show for that. But
you know, I'm actually curious what's going to happen with the draft.
Yeah, there's a chance that you actually go, right?
Right. Like if they do it in October and they decide to have it in person, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
I fully expect I will be there for wherever it is. So I'm curious how they end up doing it. I'm hoping they do a remote one so that you and I can just have an awesome draft show like we did with baseball last week in the NFL before that. But we have the unique one where the NHL actually has an in-person presence at their draft, and that's something the other 3 drafts don't have.
Yep. Well, I mean, one way or another, I'm sure we'll still do something, even if it's getting live interviews or interview transcriptions from you down on the floor or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be a fun time. So if you're there, then everyone can get together at the bar and watch it that way, or hopefully watch our coverage. Even if you are there, I'm sure we'll do something, but looking forward to that. And you should be drinking Breckenridge Brewery while you're doing that, is the point I was trying to make here, because they have a ton of amazing beers, whether it be the Mile High City Copper Lager, the Avalanche Amber, any other one. You can always pick it up from their farmhouse in Littleton, as they do pick up there from 12 to 8 p.m. every single day, or you can get it from Davidson's, your local grocery store, your liquor store, alcohol stores. You can get it from the gas station by my house. So it's everywhere.
Get my Davidson's order in.
There you go. Get that order. They do deliver. So jump on it, get it sent right to your front door. Also, our DraftKings picks of the week. It is that time because DraftKings is amazing. Look, I'm taking the easy slam dunk homer pick because the last couple times I've gone against the homer pick and it's burned me pretty badly. So Curtis Blades will be fighting this weekend. He is going up as a big favorite here, as a minus 400 favorite against what's the guy's name? It doesn't even matter what his name is because Curtis Blades is just gonna knock this dude out. Alexander Volkov, that's who he's fighting.
You know, anybody that's a Chuck fan is going to appreciate that name. The old TV show on NBC, Chuck.
I love Chuck.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched it soon enough that I guess I don't appreciate the name, but
come on, man. So it's like all season 4 is.
I probably trailed off in season 4. The first couple seasons were good, but then it started to spiral out of control a little bit, in my opinion.
You disappoint me.
Anyway, DraftKings is also giving $1,000. Oh wait, AJ, did you have a pick of the week or no?
Yeah, I've got the Watt brothers.
There you go.
In the NFL.
Plus 600.
Plus 600 for you get two cracks at this.
Yep.
For defensive player of the year. And TJ was a sack monster for Pittsburgh, and JJ has been one of the best defensive players for years for the Texans.
When he's healthy, he's always
my
in the
Texans.
Conversation. Your Texans? At least you're not a Cowboys fan.
Oh, dude, come on now. I have self-respect.
Got him.
Yeah.
Either way, that's a great pick, honestly. Plus 600 for those two to win Defensive Player of the Year. Come on, slam dunk. Get on it. Do it right now. DraftKings will even give you $1,000 bonus when you sign up and use code DNVR for that new account. Of course, you must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprises of a first deposit bonus and first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. All right. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcasts. Talking Avs first round picks from the last decade. So,
surprisingly, given kind of the flack that the Avs get from some people about their draft ability, not a bad history. I mean, we're looking at these, and we only have a decade's worth of first round picks, and there are 3 busts.
3 busts in 12 picks.
Yeah,
so they hit on 9 of 12.
2 of those were outside of the lottery.
Yep.
And one of those came in a year where they had 2 selections.
Yep.
So it didn't quite hurt as much.
It did not. But
anyway, I just thought I would point that out. Like the first round is actually the one area where they've been good.
Next on your list, AJ.
I'm assuming your list has Tyson Jost on it, where I have Martin Kaut.
It sure does.
Just get to that.
Okay. So you may well have put all of the non-NHL game players below Tyson Jost.
I did.
And I think that's fair to a certain extent. But
well, because the same way that I have Joey Hishon way down, right,
exactly.
Look, I don't mean to put this out into the universe, but Alex Newhook could get a concussion in the 3rd game of the season next year,
game ever, right?
And his career could be over, and that's it. So it's like, I'm not going to put him over a guy that has 3 seasons worth of games, whether or not they've been high end or low end or whatever your opinion is. I'm not putting him there yet.
And that's fair. 100% I'm projecting here on Newhook and Byram as prospects to be the players that they've shown to be capable of being if they hit their, not necessarily their ceiling, but their certain caliber of NHL player. And Tyson Jost, the reality is to this point, he has not hit his ceiling as an NHL player, or certainly not at least what everyone thought he could be when he was drafted.
That's fair.
So that's kind of the way I looked at it. And look, we've had this conversation a million times, so we don't have to go over it too much. But Tyson Jost is absolutely an NHL player. He should absolutely be in the lineup every single day and helps the Avs be a better team. But when you're looking at a first-round pick, especially a top 10 pick, you want that to be an impact player every single night.
You do. You also look at that draft class.
Yep.
And it's really Charlie McAvoy, Jacob Chikrin are kind of the only guys where you're like, should have taken them.
Sure. There is that extent to it, and I guess I don't count the excuse of a weak draft class as not drafting effectively. you should still have your board of best players available. And if you miss a couple guys, you miss a couple guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's a moving target though, right?
Of course.
Because 2015 is turning into an all-time great draft class. The Avs had the 10th pick, and they got a star with it. The 2016 draft class has turned into a very, very, very top-heavy class with very mediocre depth. Having the 10th pick in one draft class is not the same as the other one.
Yeah, it isn't. It isn't a fair system. They could have certainly done worse. They could have taken, if Olli Juolevi fell to 10 and they took him, that would look awful. But nonetheless, I still am looking at the player. I'm looking at what he was drafted for, looking what he was brought into this organization and what they wanted him to be. And that hasn't really materialized in the way that the organization or the fans thought it would.
Definitely.
And from that side of things, it's a disappointing pick.
Yeah, and in the same way, like we also didn't have this conversation with Siemens where that draft stopped at 10.
Yeah.
Like we just ignored that completely.
Right. Exactly.
So I guess that's fair enough. We'll skip it. With Jost for me, he's ahead of Byram, Newhook, and Kaut. I expect 3 years from now that could be quite different.
He could be behind all three of them.
I kind of expecting it.
Yeah, same. That's why I put him at 9. Is because I expect him to.
Where I think he'll probably drop behind Byram next year.
I mean, basically, as soon as Byram sticks in the NHL, he's behind.
Yeah, Byram. and then Newhook eventually.
You would think pretty quickly too.
Kaut's gonna have a harder time because Jost will be in his way.
100%.
And that might be like they're gonna end up line mates, and you're like, which one's better? And then you have Kaut ahead because he was a 16th pick. Instead of the 10th pick, and you're just like, it's the ultimate nitpick.
Right. So it's definitely, there's a good chance you're splitting some hairs here. And in my case, projecting quite a bit. Which,
as always,
you got to do it. You got to do it. If you're not looking towards the future, why even bother?
Look, man, sometimes you have to live in the moment, brother. You got to enjoy today for what it is. You can't get so caught up in what's going to be happening tomorrow that you forget to appreciate where you are.
I'll enjoy today when I get to cover a cup win. All right. Until then,
don't talk dirty to me on air. Off air, we can have this conversation.
All right. So let's move into the two here that you've clearly been talking about in Newhook and Byram, who would be next on my list anyway.
Yeah, and I have Newhook below Byram.
Same.
And the only reason I have Newhook below Byram, I would like to just point this out. The only reason I have Newhook below Byram is because of Nathan MacKinnon.
Newhook's never a 1C on the Colorado Avalanche.
Exactly. Whereas Byram has a chance to be on the top pairing next to Cale Makar, and they have a chance to be the top pairing for a long time. Alex Newhook will always have Nathan MacKinnon in front of him. And if Alex Newhook ends up so good that they have to put him next to Nathan MacKinnon, then maybe that becomes a conversation. But for right now, just that there's a cap on role where Byram could be a top pairing defender. Newhook's ceiling for the moment is the second line center job.
Yeah, look, if I just talked about projecting the future. Let's pump the brakes here. Once Newhook finishes second for a Hart Trophy, then we can have the conversation about him moving up to the top line and pushing Nathan MacKinnon a little bit, perhaps.
Well, I mean, if he finishes second, then who's winning?
Then MacKinnon is finishing first.
It's like, what if it's Makar when he has a 100-point season?
Man, that's never happened, right? There's never been a defenseman to win the Hart and the Norris.
I don't think so. I mean, I guess you'd have to go back and look at Bobby Orr's career.
That was the Norris even around at that point?
Yeah, I don't.
So,
I don't know, man. My history of NHL awards is not good because they've been so
stupid.
Well, all right. I guess that's one way to put it. Try and be diplomatic here. And
there's no diplomacy for me.
Just drop a sledgehammer on my nuts, why don't you? Jesus.
There was a long stretch of time where those things were a popularity contest. Let's be honest. It is what it is. Either way, that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about draft picks. Byram Newhook. Before this season, I think there was an argument for Kaut ahead of Newhook. Given proximity to the NHL.
Yes, definitely, because... And this is where Tyson Jost comes into it, because we saw Tyson Jost as a BCHL star going into college and had a great freshman year, and it didn't mean much in the NHL. And so because of the experience with Jost, you would have, I think at the start of the year, you would have had Newhook behind Kaut, where Kaut had a strong rookie season in the AHL. Yep. Not a Mikko Rantanen rookie season where you're like, where he's co-rookie of the year and he's a point per game player, but a good solid rookie year, a good showing for an 18-year-old kid in a tough league.
For sure.
It definitely, but then when Newhook had the year that he had, it's like
Newhook put it to a different level.
Just go back and listen to our draft day pod.
Yep.
Where we talked about Newhook versus when we talk about him now. The expectations just rose because he had a special freshman year.
Right. There was hope for him when he was drafted, and then
definitely
at the collegiate level as a freshman, he fulfilled his ceiling as much as you could have hoped for.
Yeah. Had you offered us that freshman year, had you said, yeah, he's going to have this freshman season, or you can roll the dice that he has an even better one or a worse one, both of us would have been like,
we'll take that one every single time. Yeah.
Yes, we'll take a point per game, like well over a point per game. And the fact that he scored a goal in like 9,000 straight games.
Yeah, that was insane. That scoring streak. It was like
I just had that tweet queued up. Like it was like, oh. No. And then people started sending it to me. I would be doing stuff on Friday night, and Alex Newhook would be like, "Oh, I scored again." Be like, "Oh, well, I got to tweet this shit out again." I'm like, okay. Here we go, And it turned into one of the most fun things about the prospect season for the Avs was, Alex Newhook is super dope, and everybody's really excited about him.
Yep.
And honestly, you put him in 10 other franchises, he's their franchise center. He's their building block that they are going to build their entire freaking franchise around. But because the Avalanche have freaking Nathan McKinnon already, Alex Newhook is like, he's like the cheese curds in the delicious poutine. You gotta have him. It's a very important ingredient, but it doesn't make the whole thing.
Yep. All right. I like that. I like that analogy very much. I guess we can go ahead and wrap up the second period here, as we do got to tell you guys about WGT Golf, DNVR's new gaming sponsor. We just had our first major tournament over the weekend. I felt okay. I knew I wasn't going to win the thing after my front nine, but
Did not mean to make. I apologize. I did not mean to make it that difficult. It was not my intention. I picked some holes. I picked some settings. And I was like, let's see how it goes. And then afterwards, people were like, dude, those greens are tough. Yeah, and I was like, man, this was not like the Nucks Invitational where I was like the evil mastermind behind it. Like, where that was the whole point. I was not that. I apologize to our WGT.
I mean, props to the dude who shot a 65 on those greens. Like,
yeah, you monster.
That's nutty, because I thought I was going to keep it in the 70s, and then the back nine just destroyed me. So, oops. But either way, WGT Golf is a mobile golf game which you can play on your PC or phone on the go, and it's loved by more than 20 million players around the world. You can get into our tournaments and all of that by going to DNVRgolf.com and downloading the game. We're into our second clubhouse now, so search for DNVR2 to get into our clubhouse and play in the tournaments. And yeah, it's an awesome game. I think we played St. Andrews recently, but you can also play Bethpage Black, Bandon Dunes, Wolf Creek, many other famous courses. So jump on it and play all of the different types of golf in the game. At the same time, right around the corner is Father's Day. So golf, great for dads a lot of the time. Also, Manscaped. You know what? A lot of hairy people out there in the world, and they need a good trimming, whether it be below the belt, the chest, the face, legs, arms, you name it. Manscaped's new Lawnmower 3.0 can take care of all of that for you. And it comes with an amazing perfect package as well that includes some deodorant, some spray-on toner, an amazing carrying case. You name it, Manscaped has you covered fully from top to bottom when you head to manscaped.com and use the DNVR20 code to get 20% off and free shipping. Do it now. Your balls will thank you. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Before we jump in to our top 5 picks of the Avs decade, we do have some listener things to get to very quickly. First of all, we have an anonymous listener who wants to give away a subscription to thednvr.com. So if you are one of the listeners to this podcast that is not yet subscribed to the actual site, now is your chance to do it. I am going to give y'all the opportunity to win one of these. Go ahead and tweet at the DNVR Avalanche Twitter account. Give me your favorite play from either Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar. I will accept either. Doesn't have to be this year. Can be if you want. Tweet that at the DNVR Avalanche account. It can be a text reminiscence, a highlight, either one, and we'll select a winner to win a free DNVR subscription. Thank you again to the anonymous listener, viewer, whatever you want to call it, for setting all of that up. And apparently, AJ knows a subscriber that has a baby coming in November. And they have asked us for some good Avalanche-related baby names.
We've got, If the Avs win the Cup this year, that'll be a Stanley Cup baby.
It sure will.
So I decided that I was just going to abuse my platform here, and I was going to solicit the Avalanche fandom to send in suggestions for the best Avalanche related baby names.
I feel like I've done this sideways. I will also accept baby name submissions.
Yeah.
For the free subscription.
Yeah, there you go.
Let's just combine them. If you send a highlight, I'll include you, but we're changing this. If you haven't already sent your tweet yet, send us an Avalanche baby name to @DNVR_Avalanche.
First in middle name. I'm not giving out the last name because privacy reasons and people on the internet are psychos. So, send us first in middle name. Just to be safe, let's do boys and girls names.
For sure.
My suggestion, the one that I have been pushing over throughout the weekend, was Stanley Cale.
Stanley Cale.
So that's where I started. So anybody that thinks that they're going to steal my submission, back up. So send us your baby names, and if the Avs win the Cup, hopefully we can convince this Avalanche couple to roll with it, and we'll be able to save this episode forever and have the little youngster listen to it when they get older to know how they got named.
There you go. Perfect. Great. Cannot wait for someone to be like, "It's your fault that I'm named this."
And like, this is like if they win the Cup, right? Like, hey, a lot of things have to happen to get there.
I feel like Phil is a decent name because you have Grubauer, and if it doesn't work out, you can bail out and say it was totally Philip Lindsay.
Totally. Denver sports related. I don't know about their Colorado sports fandom beyond the
It
Avs.
might just be Avs. Okay, well,
But I know that the Avs fandom is legit. They are out of town Avalanche fans who I have seen in multiple cities around the country. So,
yeah, I'll wait for a much better name than I can think of because all I can think of is Peter Joe, and then they can go by PJ. But
nice. Rudo, what are some of your favorite plays from McKinnon and Makar?
Makar is the goal against Minnesota is the one that stands out to me immediately.
I was so lucky to be in that arena.
Just murders that team.
And the Minnesota Riders were like, they were, and after the game, it's all anybody wanted to talk about. Nobody cared that Minnesota won that game.
Makar's goal was just filth.
Yeah, that was all they wanted because he scored twice that game, and they were like,
"This kid is insane."
Okay. Like, we might have won this game, but they're gonna win every war from here on out.
I mean, since we're dunking on Minnesota, McKinnon's first playoff goal,
where he broke Jared Spurgeon's ankles, that's in my top 3 of McKinnon as well.
Yep. I'd have to think McKinnon's goal against Florida a couple years ago,
where he walked Ekblad on the outside.
Yep.
And just held him off with one hand.
Yep.
That was filthy. I've got McKinnon's goal against Sweden.
Yeah,
not even an Avs memory, but
Team North America and all that. Yeah, it was filth, disgusting.
The hands, it was just... Also, the last time that Johnny Gaudreau made a big play in a postseason style game.
Yep.
So good
Very
for him.
True.
For McKinnon, 2 other plays really stand out, and they both came from this season. What he did to Ryan Getzlaf in overtime. Even though he didn't score.
Yeah.
That is a guy you and I had a legitimate Hall of Fame conversation about last week. Yep. And Nathan McKinnon put a man on skates.
2-bit punk.
On another pair of skates. It was like skates on skates. It was... You could just see the moment where his soul separated from his body.
Yep.
Where it was just like, oh no, and then he just floated away, and his body just went limp.
Dude, Nathan's think alike here. All right, the overtime goal against the Canucks this year was, and it's not that it was an incredible play or anything like that, but it was a moment where it was like, okay, Nathan McKinnon just decided he's going to do whatever he wants.
It was the FU nature of it.
Yeah,
he was just like, we shouldn't even be here. We just blew a 2-goal lead in the last 2 minutes. The referees just screwed us. We're pissed. I'm about to do this. JT Compher just got away with the most minor of interferences at center ice. I'm going to abuse all these fools. I'm going to make them all look bad. I'm going to ruin the night. And he did.
Yep.
My other one, though, that goal against Columbus in Columbus.
Yeah.
That rocket of a one-timer that came from freaking nowhere because we have never seen him score a goal like that before. Normally he gets that pass and he walks into the zone and he tries to make a play. It's what he does all the time. For whatever reason, he got that and he ripped.
Yep.
He broke that puck in half. It was outrageous because and it was the kind of thing that nobody else in the world was going to make. That is a pure superstar instinct. I'm going to do something different, and I'm going to put all of my frustration at hitting the post 14 times into this game, and I'm just going to blow this thing by this goalie. No more nonsense. Stop this, punk. And Lil Elvis just watched that thing go right on in. It was just like,
hello.
Whoa.
So, 2 players we're not going to be talking about in the 5th spot, I imagine. Didn't think so. I mean, I knew one of them for sure, but you never know what you're going to do with the other. My 5th best first-round draft pick from this decade for the Avs is Matt Duchene.
Yeah, I have him at 5 and Jost at 6. So, the big separation of the top 5 with Duchene there.
There is a big gap between 6 and 5.
And Duchene was tough. I really debated on putting him ahead of both Landeskog and Rantanen. But then there was a reason I have those guys in a certain order. And to be honest with you, Mikko Rantanen's just put up 2 seasons that Matt Duchene has never done in his career.
I think there might be an argument for him ahead of Landeskog. I don't see how you put him ahead of Rantanen.
Yeah, I had that, and yeah, he's 5th.
Yep,
was a number 1 center when they didn't have any better option, and then Nathan McKinnon kind of took over, and
then he was gone.
Yeah, and like Duchene sort of had like 1 good year with Mac around, and then after that it was like this, like these guys should be dynamite together, and they're just not, and.
There was 1 year where it felt like he was an actual 1C and not a 1.5C.
That was 13-14.
Yep. When he put up 70 points and then got hurt at the end of the year. And so
we both have Duchene at 5.
Correct. And all of the picks ahead of him were picked after him. So that's encouraging at the very least. I had Landeskog at 4. I don't know if you have him at 3 or
I have Landeskog at 3 purely because two reasons here. He's a captain.
Yeah.
So I'm giving him the intangibles boost ahead of the production boost of Mikko Rantanen. Because if you were starting your franchise fresh and you're saying which guy would you rather have? Obviously Mikko's the higher offensive upside guy. But Landeskog does so many things for your franchise that Mikko doesn't do. I don't know that Mikko's incapable of it. We just have never seen that side of him because Landy does it.
I guess I'm just not as worried about the intangibles. The intangibles don't make up a consistent 20-plus point deficit between the 2 players.
Yeah, I mean...
And there's also the fact that Rantanen was picked 10th and Landeskog was picked 2nd. Yeah. Which does help Rantanen's case for me.
Well, and if you were to redraft each of them, Landeskog would probably go like 5th or 6th, and so would Rantanen.
Right.
But Rantanen's draft class would be a little bit stronger because McDavid's at the top.
Yeah.
I mean, Landeskog's draft class actually ended up really good.
It did. But
because it's got, I mean, you're talking Mark Scheifele, Sean Couturier, Dougie Hamilton, Jonas Brodin, Nikita Kucherov. Like, those are all really, really good players.
Yep.
None of them are Connor McDavid.
Exactly.
I mean, Jack Eichel.
Exactly. The top of that class was just silly. So.
That's a great question for the Nuggets guys.
The DNVR show tonight. Hit them up with that question, JJ.
Definitely. They will be all over that.
There is the news. A Boston player did test positive for coronavirus as well over the weekend, but that's really all there was to that story.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to have affected the NHL at all. They're going forward with their plan.
Yeah, we'll see. The real question is what happens when they get to the bubble and a guy tests positive, or 2 guys test positive, or 4 guys on a team test positive. Whatever it ends up being. That'll be the real concern, I think.
All right. So Mikko at 3 or 4, Landeskog at 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever, depending on whether you're Team AJ or Team Rudo here.
It really is interesting though, the 2 versus 10 value. I actually didn't strongly consider that.
Do you think let me put it this way. If the players continue on relative trajectory, does Mikko ever pass Gabe on your list?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, if he puts up 5 more 85-point seasons, like I can't.
You can't.
At that, I mean,
on the intangibles.
No, because it's like at that point you're talking about a guy that is legitimately on a Hall of Fame track.
Yep.
And as much as I love Gabe Landeskog and as great as he is as a franchise leader,
he's the Hall of Fame.
You're right. Like you're talking about like this is a guy that's going to finish with like 700 career points. He's going to be a captain, and he's going to have 92 go up in the rafters with the C. But he's not going to sniff the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Whereas, Mikko continues on the route that he is. He could be
dude on his way to 1,000 points. Yada yada.
1,000 points, 400 or 500 goals. Like he could be one of the elite wings for the next decade.
And yet he doesn't even make the top 2. look,
not all their drafting has been great, but when they've gotten it right, holy smokes, they have gotten it right.
Straight up. What? All right. Did you have the stones to swap the number one? Because I didn't.
Dude, it's number one is Nathan McKinnon.
Right. It has to be.
I'm sorry, but like a franchise center and a legitimately dominant player in the NHL already.
Yep.
As great as Cale Makar's rookie season was, and as much as you and I have both gushed over the potential and where he's headed, and like we have both gone on the Denver Sports Podcast separately and been like, guys, he's gonna win the Norris someday. He's gonna be the best defenseman in franchise history.
Yep.
He's gonna be like, there's a good chance this guy is a Hall of Fame player someday because he is so freaking special and so obviously special.
Yep. It's
and none of that is enough to surpass what Nathan McKinnon is, because every single thing that you can argue for Cale Makar, Nathan McKinnon also has and has done.
Should have had multiple 100-point seasons, but fate has denied him that.
I mean, all he's got to do is just beat a goalie in game 82 last year, and he gets it.
It's true. That's true.
They tried so hard to get it to him.
It seemed like it was destined to not have it this year, though, either, with the injury that ended up not mattering. But
right, well, the injury and then a pandemic where you're just like, okay, so he's just going to be a 95-point player when he plays 70 games every year.
That's the law.
Kind of annoying, but okay.
Nonetheless, yeah, he's outside of the Calder, which he won, by the way. He is the closest the Avs have come to winning an NHL award in recent history. With
a major one. Don't give me that. Don't give me the Lady Bing nonsense.
Those don't count. Those don't count. The ones where you actually are a legitimate premier NHL player if you've won this award.
Yeah.
So there's no argument against it. Just a week ago we did a roundtable where he's a top 3 player in the entire league. So
yep.
And I'm not saying Cale Makar can't get there, but he's not there yet.
Right. He can't even clearly win the Calder Trophy yet.
Yeah. So that is what it is, and that's just all hype, basically. The top of the Avs drafting is absolutely superb.
It's bonkers.
They've drafted arguably 3 Hall of Famers, depending on how you feel about Rantanen's trajectory.
With no doubt 4 All-Stars.
Yep.
With a 5th who had All-Star seasons in Duchene.
Yep.
And then a couple of solid NHLers, and then 2 unknowns and 3 busts.
Yep. And the unknowns are trending well.
3 busts out of 12 picks really isn't bad.
Well,
and none of those were top 10 picks.
Again, the 11 hurts a little bit.
It does.
Bleakley at 23 or 24, was it? I forget. Yeah, you know what happens. Hishin was 16, 17.
Yeah.
So, look, missing on a first-round pick is never great, but the Avs have not missed on a top 10 pick, which are the absolutely crucial ones.
Yep. So,
I mean, yes, there's always the conversation of the Avs need to do better in the later rounds, but
there's and that conversation is draft versus development. How much is, that's a way more complicated conversation than just like when you're talking about picking guys in the top 5, you're not having much of a development conversation. You're having all right, let's get this guy in here. We need to be right about our evaluation of his talent. Yep. If you draft a guy in the top 5, he needs to be an elite player in this draft. He needs to be one of the top players in this draft. And that, for the record, is also one of the arguments that you make for Tyson Jost, because if you go back and you look at that draft class right now, he's like 10th-ish.
Yeah, in the area.
In terms of best player in the draft, and considering they took him 10th, if that's where he ends up, you're like, okay.
Yep, pretty much. So, I'm comfortable with either of these lists.
Minor differences.
A spot or two, but and we've hit the reality of at least one guy on this list, if not two, could move up a lot in the next year. So
there's a couple of guys with serious potential to move.
Yep. So it's just a fun little thing we wanted to do looking at that. I know a lot of Avs drafts history, especially coming from me, is often doom and gloom because of that development and things AJ have talked about. And the reality is the first round is still pretty hype.
Yeah, and that's the pick you have to get right.
Yep.
If you're not going to get any of the other picks right, and you're getting your first round pick right every year, and you're still getting an NHL player out of every draft class, you're honestly surviving in the draft. You can criticize, they can't get later picks, they can't do whatever. If they're getting an NHL player out of every draft class, they're doing well. It's just the reality of it. Go and look at a team like Buffalo. You think they wouldn't switch places immediately? If they could get NHL players, guaranteed quality NHL players,
switch places with any NHL team immediately. So
yeah.
With that little jab, we are going to get out of here for the day. Thank you, as always, for listening. Appreciate all of you guys. There will be no DNVR watches tonight, as we're working on some other projects right now that we hope to get to you guys soon. But other than that, I hope y'all have a good rest of your week, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. And just to let you guys know, we've been covering the Colorado Raptors professional rugby team here in Colorado for a while now, and we have reporter Colton Strickler taking you inside the locker room. He's still doing his DNVR Raptors podcast. You can still learn a lot about the Raptors. They're still doing their DNVR watches on weekends as well, so you can pick up and watch some of the best rugby that's ever been played here in Colorado. Highly recommend you check it out, as well as the 101 pods to break down the game for you, done by Colton. And be sure to follow that DNVR Raptors Twitter account as well. Great fun, part of the DNVR family. So come join us and enjoy some sports. Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out in live chat. Appreciate all you. Make sure to tweet at us with your baby names.